Hello everybody, this is Pete again. I'm here at home and I thought it'd be a good idea to share some thoughts about something I read today. I'm kind of in the book of Matthew right now, and I'm working towards chapter 18 of Matthew, and I thought it'd be a good time to share a little bit about what I feel maybe God is kind of showing me about that particular story. Well, the story is about the disciples actually, and they are having an argument amongst themselves about who is the greatest in the kingdom. And this is not actually in Matthew, but this is in Luke, but it kind of leads up to why this whole subject was brought up to Jesus. Anyway, so here in Matthew chapter 18, verse 1, and I wrote it here on my notes. Get back to there. It says right here that the disciples come up to Jesus and ask him a pretty interesting question. Who is the greatest in the kingdom? And I thought, boy, that's kind of a bold question to ask Jesus, especially since he's taught them about what it is to serve, is to be a servant, to be humble, to, Well, anyway, so here Jesus is going to answer their question. But I was thinking, why would they ask that question, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they were competing against each other. They wanted to be the greatest. And so they thought to be the greatest in the kingdom, you had to earn some kind of power, perhaps, title, something that will give you some real power. And so I think that they were asking that question, what can I do to receive that or get that? Obviously the story about James and John, the sons of Zebedee, the sons of thunder. They were trying to get the two big spots next to Jesus. Of course, with their prodding from their mom. Of course, Jesus is going to listen to their mom because mom is always right, And of course, Jesus gave a great answer. Didn't say you guys are terrible for even asking that question. And in this same story, what did Jesus do? Well, he brought a little child, and it says here in verse 2 that he brought a little child amongst them. They were kind of probably in a big circle, like maybe a huddle or something like that. And they were there with the child right in the middle of them. And I know that back then, and maybe even now, children are kind of looked on as maybe brats or rugrats or things like that. They want to ask a question, not now, Dad, not now, kid, I don't have time to hear you out. So in a way, children can be put in a position of looking down on, And so Jesus brought this child, and they're kind of probably waiting for his answer. Anyway, and so what does Jesus say? He looks at the child, and basically he says that this child is the greatest in the kingdom. I'm kind of reading from my notes, so hopefully I'm not messing it up too much. But this child is the greatest in the kingdom. Now you think, well, why would a child be the greatest in the kingdom? Children, again, they're wonderful at times, and as parents, I'm sure that they can be a handful too. You could see sin nature evident in their lives more because we have a better way of hiding it. They're more open about it, and it's like I want this. I'm mad, temper tantrums, all that stuff. But so why would Jesus pick a child as an example of being the greatest in the kingdom? Because we're all born in a sin nature, as David said in Psalms. Anyway, so what are some of the things that maybe put the child in the position of being the greatest in the kingdom? Well, first of all, they have to rely on others. They have to rely on their parents, their teachers, their mentors, examples of those who are, good leaders. They have to rely on these people. And in a sense, because of that relying, they have to trust in them, And of course, and again, he has to trust, or she or he has to trust in those people that are over them. Like I said, parents, teachers, anybody that is over them. And so they have to build that trust. And they usually don't need to even build it. They just trust. And of course, he's very limited in his knowledge. So some things that we share as adults with kids, they just gobble it up, He's open to learn, or she's open to learn. And they get excited about the little things, Like I remember my boy Caleb on his first birthday. We had a lot of people. I don't know why we invited so many, but we did. And of course he got a lot of presents because of it. But he was more interested in the box than the presents itself. And so there's not too much that we need to do to make him excited. And so he was playing with the box instead of the toys he got. Anyway, okay, and he's open to learn. And, and so all that stuff is based on humility. He has to trust, and he gets excited about other things. Well, anyway, so here's the disciples hearing this. Do you think they're kind of like, wow, that's great to hear. Boy, I'm going to be a child. I don't think so. I think they probably were very much into themselves. And Jesus was continuously teaching them to think of others and to humble themselves and become a servant. And that's a process that takes a lifetime. It isn't just all of a sudden it just happens. And so to become like a child means all these characteristics that I just shared. And of course in Hebrews, I think chapter 6, it says that this, let's grow up. We don't need the milk anymore. We need the meat. So in a sense, they're talking about maturity. So how can you combine maturity and being a child? And it isn't really about necessarily being immature, as a child would be, but it's to be humble as a child. And that child will learn as he goes. And hopefully when he grows up like us, that hopefully we can still have the childlike attitude, but the mature ability to understand. Anyway, so again, they were arguing among themselves. Actually, in Luke 9:46, kind of gives a better perspective, because it does say they were arguing before. So, and I know that, like I said, James and John were some of those who really thought they were the top dogs, and the other disciples were pretty upset with him, of them, But anyway, he answered their question, and of course they didn't like it. Now, who would you think it would have been the greatest? What would have been the greatest answer, I guess, to their question? And I kind of thought about, well, Jesus, of course, he is the greatest in the kingdom. But instead of him proclaiming himself at that time, which he will later, he picked a child. And so later on in the other verses, it says that if you receive this little child, you receive me. So in a sense, he was actually saying, yes, I am that child, And so, of course, and in verse 6, boy, those are some really harsh words. But if you hurt one of these children that trust in God, it'd be like you put a millstone around somebody's neck and throw him in the ocean. Of course, it's not going to take long to drown him with a weight around his neck. So it is better that you treat, a child of God in a way that would only help them, not hurt them or hinder them. And so in a sense, as parents who have children, of course mine are older now, so they're on their own, but as they're growing up, they're learning a lot, and of course they'll never stop learning, and so you also have the ability to teach them. How do you teach them? In a humble way, a way that you have an attitude of a servant even towards your own kids. I'm dad and I say how it is. No, that's not the way it is. I know we are all those guys are husbands and church leaders, our responsibility to give direction and to be able to lead others to God or pray for them. That's our responsibility. But we have to do that in a very humble way. And I think that all of us, in some part of our Christian walk, will be confronted with that, and help us to trust in God and not be afraid to stand out. And of course, because we have sin in our lives, or have sin at times, maybe that we feel like that might hinder us from doing those things. But God is working in our lives every day, and even those times when we feel like we're not adequate enough to serve Him, that He still wants us to continue to point in that same direction that He's led us the whole way. And so this is a great example of how to serve God. And it's just basically, and I think I shared the first opportunity I had to share with the church on a Wednesday night, it was about humility, And so, we're all put in a position of humility, and yet I know for myself, even doing this study here on Devotion, it's kind of like, wow, people are going to hear what I have to say, and they're going to think, boy, Pete is good, or maybe they don't, I don't know. Maybe it's best if you tell me, hey, good job, or, well, I heard it, that's it. And that might hurt me a little bit, but, that's okay. I need it. It's part of being humble. Anyway, this is kind of all off the cuff here, so if I say something that sounds kind of like, oh, okay, then you'll understand why. But I hope all of you are doing well. I know very shortly we will be getting together on Sunday. It's been really nice to be able to watch the church on Sunday and some of the devotions that are out there. And I know Pastor Dickey had asked us elders to be able to share. And, so I thought this would be kind of nice. It wasn't planned. I was just reading my word, which I need to do more, as we all need to do more. I'm right in the middle of waiting to be called into work, which is a blessing in itself. And we're going to be helping some senior citizens move into their new senior citizen facility, and so they're going to be able to have opportunity to be taken care of in a way. One thing I notice a lot of times, and usually we're working with people that are older, that they have a hard time leaving their place. They've been a residence for many years. This particular couple has been in their house since the 1960s, and they're a Jewish couple too. So hopefully, in some way, I could share with them without, hopefully maybe I can share with them in some way, But it's a very humbling experience as you get older, and you lose your capabilities to be able to do the things that it used to. Most of us are still at that point where we're doing fine physically and mentally. Maybe our eyesight's starting to go, hearing maybe starting going, but most of us are doing okay. But as we get older, I know that we'll be going through things that are not pleasant. Especially with this whole COVID thing. So many people have died and been sick, and a lot of it because a lot of the folks have been older and haven't been in the best health. And it's just it is part of life, and it's a difficult thing to accept at times. And so this is a way to keep us humble, not a bad way, but what happens is it leads us back to our Maker, and that's what Jesus wants from us, to trust in Him in all things, And so He gives us the ability to do a lot of things, but like I said, as those abilities start to leave us, our trust in God is even more. And people might say, why? Why is this happening? Obviously, you've been listening to the news, watching the videos of that poor fella, and I feel so heartbroken. I work in inner city, and I know a lot of people there, and it just really breaks my heart to see the abuse that happened. But, I don't want to try to make this a political talk, but I definitely know that that this is going to hurt our country in a lot of ways. And I just pray, God, that as I go to visit tomorrow in Watts, Lord, that I can be a light to the dying world, and combine and be unity with my African American brothers and sisters, Lord. And I just am so glad that He has given me that opportunity to know people from all their backgrounds, and maybe to understand what they feel about it, and try to show that it's not about anything that unify us more than God Himself, and so that we can break any kind of barriers down that might hinder us from fellowshipping with people of different colors or different neighborhoods. And I think this is a way to bring us out as a church, and I think this is also a wake-up call, because we've been at home, a lot of us staying at home waiting, which is a good thing, but in a home means that you only are limited to be able to show your faith. And so hopefully this will be an opportunity for us to get out there and really be that light that the Bible talks about. And so I just thank you so much for listening. Boy, I tell you, I thought I was only going to go for a few minutes. I guess it's already been 16. Well, anyway, hope to see you on Sunday. You guys have been a real blessing to me. It was awesome to do a little Zoom thing with the brothers. And God bless you all. And I love you. Bye-bye.